This green leaflet ESL teacher realizes his ass was grasped once he signed under a dotted line. Why is that? 10-hour shift, 6 out of 7 days work week, and even better, a pinch of overtime. Now, welcome back to Solo Quest. Today, we're going to talk about what happens if you sign into a really bad contract and what are some of the exit plans. Now, welcome back, fellow traveler. My name is Solo Quest. I've been living and working here in China for about 6 years so far. As you can see here, my 2 bald spots, it's not just stolen valor. These are all hard earned from teaching out here in China and from all the stress that I've received. And I like to share it with y'all. And this channel is about surviving in China and helping out expat and making a community out here. So that way we don't get ripped off or either get lost. And if you want more of this video, you can subscribe or either click on the like button. It'll recommend you more videos on how to survive out here in China. And if you have any other question, comment down below as well. I try to reply to you as soon as possible because these type of food, like, comment, and subscribe, are the food that my boys love the most. Vivi and Fafa, their belly get fulfilled off these 3 buttons. And if you did click on any of these buttons, I am forever grateful to you, and we can continue on to the video. On today's video, we're going to talk about the typical reason why people end their contract early. Next, we're going to talk about what happens if any of the party are unsatisfied with the current contract. And at the end, we're going to talk about the exit plan on what happens before and after. Next, let's talk about the main common reason why most ESL teachers leave their company early or either end their contract early. The first and main common reason is either from another employee or management, because either they don't see eye to eye with a certain workload, or perhaps their attitude just totally sucked and the ESL employee don't really feel comfortable and they want to leave their contract early. Second, a disagreement in the contract. Now, yes, most contract in China does have English and Chinese, so you don't really have to worry about it. But sometimes the contract doesn't specify what kind of workload you're going to be doing. A good example would be you didn't realize that the workload would include morning class and also after school class, which means you're going to be in the company for more than 8 hours, technically 9 hours, because it doesn't include the lunchtime as well. And this can cause a lot of dissatisfaction with a lot of people, and it feels like the workload is unfair. Third, let's dive deeper into workload dissatisfaction. Some management knows that you don't really read the contract or don't know your rights and would ask you too much favor or either do work that is outside your work contract. Some of the really weird story that I heard was asking their employees to pick up their kids. Second, do coffee runs every morning and evening. And third, grading their homework, not your workload homework, but their homework, so they can go home early. Although doing favors is a good thing in China because it does put you into a better status, but the thing is, it causes you stress as well. And the last one is new job opportunity. Now, typically, if you already lived and worked here for around 2 years, you're gonna get a lot of job offer every week in your email. And you can decide whether you want to leave your company or not. And there are some repercussions, we're gonna talk about that later, but typically the new company would pay for everything and for all the repercussion from the previous company. And of course, as an expat, this is up to you whether you want to leave or either stay. Now, with all the dissatisfaction out of the way, the main question is, how exactly do I quit a Chinese company? Can I just put in a 2 weeks notice? Is it that simple? No, it's a bit more complicated than that. And actually, in some company, they do have a no quit clause, or either you have to pay a heavy fine. But before we continue on to that, let's talk a bit more about what type of money does a company spend on a new employee coming into the company. Now, the first thing the company usually pay for a new employee to come to work to China is authentication and documentation. In total cost about $1,600 up to $2,000. They have to authenticate their bachelor's, their TFL certificate, and if they don't have a TFL certificate, the company typically pays for that as well. If the company don't pay for that, don't join that company. And the second one is the flight ticket. And for this one, it typically depends on where they live, but typically for US, it's about $1,800 from US to China one-way trip. And the third one is accommodation. Typically, they would pay for 2 weeks hotel, and they would pay for the first 3 days of food once they enter China as well, because they don't really have the WeChat set up yet, and typically these new employees don't have cash as well. Now, in total, for a company to get a new employee to start working in their company in China is about $3,500 up to $5,000, depending on which nationality they come from, and sometimes it gets a bit more expensive if there are any political tension around the area. And I want you to keep those numbers in mind because we're gonna get back to it in a bit. All right, next, let's move on to the meat of the video. And what happens if there are any dissatisfaction within you and the company? What will happen and what should you do? The first thing is never argue and never fight, because the main reason why, you don't really speak the language. And second, if there are any fights, you go to jail. That's about it. So the first option is to have an open negotiation with your employer and you with another third person, that is the HR. Typically, HR is not really on your side, but it does help out with the whole translation because most HR do speak perfect English. And if a resolution is still not met, the company would threaten you with either firing you or either perhaps having you pay back for some of the things that they paid for you to enter China in the first place. And the last one is, I hope you read your contract carefully to counter these negotiation tactics, because they kind of rely on the idea of you not reading your contract, because most ESL teachers don't read their contracts at all, which is insane. So before we move on to our next subject, there's one advice that I really want to give you, and I hope you take this into mind, because when it comes to confrontation, there will be anger in either both sides of the party. Even if the other person responds to anger, keep a level-headed mind and stay tuned to your contract. Read that carefully, know your right. Because if you respond to another anger, it might cause fight, it might cause like resentment. And the thing is, whether you like it or not, the industry here is interconnected with each other, because words do spread around. Either you have to go to another city or perhaps another region in China. But the main point is, read your contract and stay level-headed and keep firm to your ideas. So now let's just say the negotiation didn't really fall through, and we're gonna sort these out from level 1 up to level 3. First, let's start with level 1, and those are mainstream training center. Now, when it comes to mainstream training center, they are a bit lenient when it comes to this because they do have enough budget to take the hit. Now, typically for these mainstream training center, if you do quit early and follow their procedure, you only really have to pay for the processing fee to get to China, which is typically about like $500 up to $1,000. Not much of a big hit. Now, for level 2, these are non-mainstream training center and also mid-level agency. Now, this can hit you a bit harder because in some cases, these companies don't even have an exit clause, which means you are stuck or either pay a fee for you to exit the company or either have a threat of you getting blacklisted out of China. Now, in case if you do quit early with these type of company, not only that you have to pay for their flight fee and processing fee, but including a 2 or 3 months compensation bonus for you to exit the company as a damage reimbursement. Now for level 3, this right here is reserved for people who couldn't control their emotion and start using bad words or other bad names to that company, and the company will respond the same way as well. You want to avoid this situation because it could cause a lot of mess. Typically, the repercussion for this is everything we said earlier, and including withholding your items. Now, typically when you enter China, they would hold your bachelor's, hold your passport, hold your work visa, in case if the government needs it, but they can like threaten you like, oh, we're gonna hold it until you pay us back or some sort like that. In this situation, you can't really escape because they do have your personal belonging, although you can call the police to get them back, but the police will also ask you to pay back those fees because it is written in your contract. You are an adult and you've read the contract and you sign under it, and so that is legal tender and you can't really get back out of it, even though it's a really bad contract. And this is why I always preach y'all to read your contract like a freaking Bible. So that way you don't get effed over by a lot of these companies. Now, let's just say things get really heated. You didn't really follow any of the procedure the company tell you, and you just want to quit right now. F it, whatever. Some cases, company would file a paper to the government to blacklist you out of China, which means if you try to renew your visa again, would not get accepted and you get blacklisted out of China. Now, you don't really have to really worry about this last one because it's a really, really rare case. I've only heard just one story out of my whole 5 years about getting blacklisted in China. But typically, if you just follow the procedure, everything should be fine. Now let's move on to the very last subject of the video, and that is the exit plan when it comes to quitting a company. So, like I mentioned earlier, the first thing is read your goddamn contract, because this is what stipulates your life out here in China and what you can and you can't do. It's not like back in the state where you can just put in that 2 weeks notice and not think too much about it. And here, the next major decision in your life can affect you mentally and also fiscally as well. So once you put in that paper, you're gonna only have 2 weeks. The two option is either find a new job or either go back home. If you already found a new job, that's great because the company will take care of your paperwork. You don't really have to do too much and just relax for the next 2 weeks and get rid of that stress off your mind. But the big stress comes when you want to go back home. If you already have a backup money, that's all great and stuff. But if you don't have the fund to go back home, that's when the whole stress starts to come up because you either have to ask a loan from your family or a loan from someone else to get that flight ticket to go back home. And now with all those disastrous ideas out of our mind, let's talk about the ideal exit plan to get out of the company in case if there are any unresolved problem that both party can't resolve. Now, the first thing is read the contract, know the clause, know your rights. And the second thing is make sure to read the exit clause well. Now, there is a hidden secret out here. Typically, in most contracts, there is a 3-day grace after you sign the contract. If you find something dissatisfactory and both parties cannot find a solution to this, you can just quit the contract without any repercussion at all. But it only lasts 3 days after you sign the contract. But if it goes more than that, you have to follow the second exit clause. Typically, they would have a certain amount of time before you can exit contract without incurring any fee at all. But if you don't follow those certain time limit, you do have to pay a certain amount of fee for the company. And the last thing is keep on to your personal belongings such as passport, bachelor's, and also your TEFL, because those three are the major component key to get another new job out here in China. Without those, you're kind of goofed up. Let's just say you quit the company with no problem at all. What happens next? Like I mentioned earlier, you do have about 2 weeks. Oh wait, I lied. You only have typically about like 1 week because it takes about like 3 to 5 business days for them to process these papers, and those are also included. Now, if you have a new employer lined up, make sure they know your timeline when you're going to quit. That way they know when to start processing your paper. Or not, you're not gonna make it into the timeline. Either you have to leave China or pay for overstay visa, which is about like $500 to $1,000. It's really pricey. Now, in conclusion, what typically happens if you break your contract or either quit your job as an ESL English teacher in China? Now, the first thing is you have to pay back for all the processing fee, flight ticket, hotels, processing, and in some cases they want you to pay damage fee to the company by paying 2 or 3 months of your current salary to the company. Now, how do I avoid any of that? The easy answer to that is follow their procedure. Typically, you have to give a 3 to 6 month notice to the company until they train another person to replace your position. If not, you have to pay for all the processing fee that we talked about earlier. But the most important thing of all is do not be angry, keep a level-headed, do not say bad word, do not scream, etc. like that, because this can escalate your problem even further. And if there's any bad blood in between you guys, they can either blacklist you out of China, so it's gonna be harder for you to renew your contract with another company, or either they can just talk to each other, because the thing is all these companies meet up once a year and they all talk to each other about their experiences and with the employees that they have. So try to keep a level-headed, know your contract like the back of your head, and everything should be fine. But yeah, that's about it. Always have an exit plan and always keep a level-headed. And as per usual, if you have any comments or either question, comment down below. I'll try to reply to you as soon as possible. Until next time, SoulQuest logging out. Peace.